Let's try something simpler. Where did the Arctic Highlanders get their cutlery from?
Sheffield, that's where you get your cutlery from.
Ah, well, the Sheffield.
From Nordic.
IKEA.
Sorry, when you say, what was it, northern...
Well, that's the clue. Arctic Highlanders was the...
Do you mean Eskimos?
We now call them Inuit polar Eskimos, yeah. A man called Ross, after whom the Ross Sea is named, he was the first European to encounter. And this particular tribe of Inuits, 200 of them he met. It was an extraordinary meeting. They thought they were the only people on the planet. They didn't know there were any other people in the world.
It's very much like that in Essex.
It's like that. It's rather touching, though, isn't it? They saw him, they'd never seen anyone else. But they had cutlery.
Metal cutlery.
Metal cutlery.
Where did it come from?
Where did it come from?
Aliens.
Oh, was it...
Aliens is not a bad answer.
Was it one of the guys that went up there to the North Pole and just left a bunch of stuff and they found a bunch and went...
No. This man, Ross, was the first European ever to go up close to the North Pole. I'm talking a long time ago. Look, see? I'm talking 1818, before anyone had been to the North Pole.
And they had proper knives?
Pretty proper. They were a mixture of bone and metal.
Or was it mail
But
order?
they didn't have the technology...
Did they find them? Did they excavate them or something?
They didn't have the
Did they come
technology
across them?
to smelt metal, to make metal. They had no knowledge about iron ore or anything of the kind.
And they thought they were the only people?
They thought they were the only people on Earth. So it's a real puzzle. But they had cutlery. It wasn't from a box from Sheffield that had sort of got washed ashore.
Not an abandoned Ford Escort.
No. It was
I would have thought
still 1818. It was just...
Oh, is it because the North Pole is magnetic and it... and all the colouring naturally when you...
What about...
You know when you lose a stream, that's where it ends up?
Drifting shipwrecks.
No. You were closest with aliens.
Ah.
Was it meteorite?
Meteorites. Joe Brand points there. Yeah. Three meteorites. They looked like a woman sewing her tent and a dog to them, so that's what they knew them as. But they took flakes from the one that they called the woman, metal flakes, and they attached bits of horn and used them as eating implements, as cutlery. What did this bird bring to the German city of Klutz?
Chlamydia.
Chlamydia.
Chlamydia stalk. That sounds like a desperate man back from a business trip in Holland going, the thing is stalks.
Is that a particular, like, a giant stalk?
I'll show you a picture of it.
In
It's been stuffed
Germany?
and is in a museum.
How big is it, really, then?
Well, it's hard to sell the scale, but stalks are quite big, but that's an arrow through it, or spear, rather. They call it an arrow in German, which is Pfeil, and it's known as the Pfeilstorch, which is just literally arrow stalk. Now, you may say, what's odd about that? Nothing particular. But what they recognised was that the arrow was not German. Indeed, it was not even European. But they recognised straight away
flown a very
that it
long
was
way.
African. What on earth would a bird be doing with an African spear in its neck, they thought?
My God.
So they puzzled out the possibility that birds, rather than disappearing at winter...
Oh, went to Africa.
Yes, and migrated.
You're saying it flew back with that?
Yes. It survived.
No way.
I know, yeah.
No way.
Yes, it did.
It flew to Germany going, well, I'm never going back there. The worst holiday ever. I find that the survival of that bird, I find extraordinary.
It is, but you hear stories of bullets piercing people's heads without somehow managing to...
Not narrow, travelling the length of its neck
somehow managed
through its head.
I know, it is astounding that it flew.
During this...
Something's different.
Yeah.
Do you think it was originally from Germany, or it got kind of... It was from England, and somehow... Whoa, we're going right a bit.
It might have slightly tilted to the right. We don't know. It was in 1820.
In the Spanish Inquisition, they used to put people on spikes. They put the spike up your bum hole and right up through you, and it would come out your shoulder, and it would miss all the vital organs, and you'd be alive.
That's not nice.
And then they'd put you out.
But you would...
I'm beginning
come
really
right
to
up
think
there.
less and less of the Spanish Inquisition, to be honest.
350 years it went on. I thought it was, you know...
Oh, no.
A couple of weeks.
Then it was safe to go back to Marbella. it wasn't always as torturous
They did some terrible things.
they did it, but not for 300 years solid.
When it wasn't torturous, what would they do?
Well, they would test your faith, but they wouldn't punish you by...
There was a lot of tickling. There was 100 years where it was mainly Chinese burns. You do believe in God? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you bloody do.
Anyway, until that time, people had observed birds disappearing, and they'd assumed all kinds of things, that they went underwater, that, you know, they changed into other animals. But there was no particular evidence anyway, except they disappeared. 1820. This was the first kind of clear evidence, as it were, that the bird had been to Africa. And so things began to get put together. Samuel Johnson wrote that swallows certainly sleep in the winter. A number of them conglobulate together by flying round and round, and then all in a heap throw themselves underwater and lie on the bed of the river. Well, that's what he thought, because swallows disappear in the winter, and he assumed they hibernated like other animals. And butterflies, of course, they migrate thousands of miles, but we never see them. Why don't we see butterflies migrate?
They're invisible.
Because they're caterpillars. They migrate as caterpillars. They migrate like super slowly.
Long time to get there.
Yeah, they're very, very hungry. I read a book about it.
And the reason is that they are actually a kilometre up. They're incredibly high.
Are they?
Yeah. It's really astonishing. These fragile, delicate creatures manage to get the height. And then when they're in there, to orient themselves in such a way that they know they're all facing the right direction and get thousands of miles.
Whoa!
First up, a question on nautical names. Now, you each have got a hat. Put them on. There we go.
Sure. I mean, a lot of people would look stupid in this, but me.
So what I want to know is, as you look around the room, how many of you are genuine ship names? Banterer, we've got Ronnie's Spanker. And Flirt, we've got for Johnny, and Titan Uranus.
HMS Flirt?
When you said it out loud, then it all made sense.
Yes, sorry. Try to be polite. Titan Uranus. What do you reckon?
Spanker's got to be a ship out of a Carry On film, hasn't it?
Yes.
Reporting for duty, everyone. Welcome aboard the Spanker.
Oh.
Now, hands at the ready. Ooh, naughty.
But I happen to know, because of a naval connection.
Oh, what is
but
your
I
naval-
happen
what
to
is your
know
naval
that
connection?
there was...
I think I might have seen it online.
My brother is an admiral in the Navy.
Oh!
Yes.
Admiral.
So
And-
do you
and
like
my
know
father was a
all the-
commander.
Your father was a commander in the Navy?
Yeah.
So your brother's done rather better.
Yes, because he's got that insurance business on the side, hasn't
No,
he?
and my dad backdoored in through the sort of merchant
Did he?
Navy.
A lot of them do, I've heard.
We'll tighten your anus.
If anything, the reverse, I find.
You look so innocent, and then it says tighten your anus. It's so fantastic.
Look at that, that's a fun if I went out on this tonight.
What do you reckon, Johnny? You reckon it's yours? HMS Flirt? Do you reckon it's a real thing?
Yeah, I reckon HMS Flirt could be the one.
Yeah, it could be.
yeah.
The others might have been nicknames.
A bit of fun amongst the
Nicknames
sailors.
for ships.
In fact, Spanker, Banterer and Flirt were all, or have been, all ships in the Royal Navy. Titan Uranus was there've been two merchant ships, actually. There was an oil tanker and an ore carrier. Lots named after animals. There's been kangaroo, gnat, weasel, zebra.
Is the downside to this not the... I mean, obviously, the Royal Navy, very proud history.
Yes,
but
fantastic.
occasionally ships get sunk and people die, and then you've got to report back, I'm afraid things did not go well, 60 souls lost on Titan Uranus.
Yeah, well, there are worse ones. Cockchafer.
Well, that is how a lot of the sailors died.
And HMS Pansy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Happy Entrance. So, just to say. So have a quick look. Imagine you are at sea, and we've got, I don't know, say HMS Cockchafer, coming at you in the dark, or possibly going away from you in the dark, OK? Can you tell which one it is? Coming towards you or going away?
Well, green towards you, red away?
Not quite. Anybody? Your brother's an admiral, for goodness sake.
Is one port and the other starboard?
One is
that
port and
what
one is
it is?
starboard, yes. Do you know which is which?
No.
No, it's quite good to know.
Does anyone know? Red is port. Red is port.
Yes, yeah, I could have told you that. OK. That's how you remember, like, port is red.
And green is sherry.
Green is starboard, and what you say is green to green, red to red, perfect safety, go ahead. So what you would know from this is that the boat is coming towards you, and that would be important information to have when you're at sea.
I definitely would have crashed into that.
Yeah. There is one of my favourite books of all time that you could read to avoid this happening. It was published in 1992, and it is called How to Avoid Huge Ships.
Who is this sold to? Small islands?
It went through several editions. What worries me is that they may have left stuff out in the first edition, and then they thought, oh, that was the other thing I meant to put in. It's ranked as the third oddest book title of all time.
Oh, go on, what are the other two?
The second, number 2, Greek Rural Postmen and Their Cancellation Numbers.
Yeah. So what about the urban postman? I found a bit...
Who's that bothered? This is my favourite. Number 1, oddest book title of all time. People Who Don't Know They're Dead, How They Attach Themselves to Unsuspecting Bystanders and What to Do About It.
How would you use one of these to calm a horse down?
Oh, is this...
Now, calm it down.
Yeah.
With what I'm thinking of, not going to calm it down.
One in the long run, it
We're gonna have one as well.
Have these been used? Because if they're what I think they are, I don't think I want to touch it.
Scrupulously
It
clean.
would only have been on a horse.
Is it something over its nose, over its snout?
Yeah.
Does it
Goes that far, gets that big.
on the tail?
You fire an arrow at the horse.
Well, the points have gone to Alan.
Tastes weird.
Alan's identified where it goes. They're not the full number of points. But,
Where does it go? Where?
Oh, yes, Claire.
It's a twitch.
It's a twitch. She knows, you know.
Well,
now
of course
explain.
she knows. She, Claire Ball.
Yes, of course. She's here
I
expressing...
couldn't let Alan get any more of it. I thought, oh, yeah, I'll give him a go. And then he was like, nearly right.
Yeah, they are. So imagine you have to give medication.
Oh, it is like... Here, I'll do that. Here, I'll do...
She's calming me.
This whose line is it anyway from like 10 years ago?
Imagine you're giving a horse a medication or something. They're very nervous animals, and they don't like being fiddled around with any more than anyone else. But the trouble is, when they are uncomfortable, they can hurt themselves as much as they can hurt a vet or anyone attending them, because they strike out. So you need to calm a horse down. And there's a very magical thing about horses. It's most peculiar. And what is it, Claire?
If you take their top lip,
Yeah.
and basically you can do it with your hands and you can do it with a bit of
Yeah.
rope. This to me looks a little bit severe. I've never seen one
there it
quite
is.
like this. And you basically take their top lip and they won't move.
They just go into a state of almost
And it doesn't,
trance-like...
yeah. And it's a bit like the old rabbits in the headlight freeze. It makes them go completely...
Yeah. And then you can...
Yeah, like that.
You can administer a...
That's
That's
he's
it,
gone.
Alan is a horse. Yeah.
Go with the drugs now, go with the drugs.
You don't need them now.
You can sing at the same time. And actually, with some, you can take their ear and it has the same effect.
Yeah.
How did they find that out?
Well, you know.
There's been a lot of experimentation going on. Well, I suppose we'll try that went badly. Let's try the lip now.
It was thought originally that it was almost that it was a distraction, and that, you know, it was like if you did that, it couldn't concentrate on something else happening to it. But it was discovered that it releases endorphins. It just gets blissed out. It's rather nice to know, because it looks a bit cruel there.
I'm fine.
That's no good. There's another thing you may like to know. That's when you calm a horse down, but sometimes you might want to get a horse more active. For example, if you're a horse dealer and you've got a knackered old nag, a jade, you might want them to look coltish and spring-like. Yep. How do you do the opposite, then? How do you...
Why, just hit him in the nads?
Not a little further back, even. We're talking bottoms.
Oh, really? In the bum?
Yes, but what in the bottom? That's the key.
Oh, is it?
Well, anything really is going to get you a very...
I think it's more the act of putting it in there.
Ice cube.
Ice cube would be good. That would be good. The favoured thing...
a popsicle.
You take...
Sounds like there might be a story here.
It is
Take you back to the hot summer of '76.
It's disappointing to discover that, in fact, it's nothing to do with any kind of ice cream confection whatsoever. But we are in the right channel, the right passage. And it is a foodstuff.
Ginger?
Ginger is the right
God,
answer.
I didn't know that. It was a guess.
ginger. You literally ginger them up. You
Just thought it was a bit hot.
Pop ginger at the bottom, and they spring about, and they look lively, and it takes 10 years off them.
So, in other words, in a really good episode of How to Look 10 Years Younger...
Yes. Exactly.
When is the best
best time to charge your mobile phone?
At night.
Well, that's good, yeah. Might be.
Oh,
Any
really?
other
Well,
thoughts?
that would go on.
When it's completely almost run out of battery.
If you've got an iPhone, it's every 15 minutes.
It used to be the case with an old
Nokia
phone.
going for weeks. Yay! Look at that beauty. Bring them back.
That's like one of the most modern... Oh, it's not like it was in the old days.
These phones of that generation used what sort of batteries?
Lithium.
No, nickel is the point. And if you charge it when it's 20% full, it wouldn't remember the rest of it, as it were. It was called memory problem. So you had to drain them. You had to use them completely so that it would charge the whole battery. But we use lithium now, and that isn't a problem anymore. But here's a great thing about batteries, and I'm going to demonstrate this to you, and I think it'll be rather interesting. And we're just talking about ordinary AA batteries here, whether or not they're charged or...
They have a thumb thing on them now, don't they?
I would
well,
use...
They did the thumb thing, but they sort of got rid of that, haven't they? They never quite worked. It was supposed to shine go green
go
or
green,
something.
and it was like a switch thing.
But
I would attach it to my nipple clamps and see if it, if it gives me a buzz that I need.
here are two batteries. How can you tell which one is flat, as it were, which one is drained of power, and which one's...
Try it on you.
Some magnetic thing.
No, it's nothing to do with magnetism, actually. I'm going to slip through these little copper sleeves so that they're both facing the right direction. They should both fall at the same time. So you can count me down from 3, 2, 1 and drop, all right? So the whole audience can join in.
3,
2, 1, drop!
All right, let's have a look at that. Now, in theory, an empty battery should bounce more. Oh. Now, this is the case, that this is the one which has been drained. It's to do with the gel inside the batteries, and when they're drained, it's hardened, and so it bounces more.
Should we do an apology now for people breaking their mobile phones? Presumably someone is at home going, is this charged? Seems all right, yeah.
There you are. Isn't that good?
Can you just buy new batteries?
What went up by 57% during the Blitz?
Oi, oi!
Yeah.
House prices?
Was it Mother Brown's knees?
By 57%.
Oh, they were always up listening to the Cockneys during the Blitz.
Yeah.
Always up.
Yeah.
The birth rate?
No.
Grave robbing?
Crime.
Oh.
Crime went up a huge amount during the Blitz.
Sorry, do you count crime as dropping bombs? Because if that...
No,
If that's listed as a crime, then there was a lot of that
It's
going
not a crime in actual law, in fact, to do that, unfortunately.
Crime?
But no, I'm talking about London as crime, yeah. Mad Frankie Fraser actually said it was just terrible. It was a tragedy when Hitler surrendered, because wartime London was a criminal's paradise, is the way he put it. It was, I mean, all he had to do was get an ARP warden, you know, like Hodges in Dad's Army. Napoleon, all that. You put one of those on, and people would just obey you, and a tin hat with a W on it, and people would actually help them load their cars with stuff they'd stolen. So, here, come here, help me load this car. They go, oh, yes, because you're a warden. I mean, it was
Are you suggesting that's what the Queen Mother was doing in the East End?
Not...
My granddad was one of those.
Was he an ARP warden?
Well, he says that.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
So was it mainly...
There was looting. It was looting, but there's also scams. There was one fellow called Handy who made a claim for his house being bombed out, for which he got £500, 19 times before they caught on to him. And, of course, ordinary people also were committing crimes through ration books. People who didn't think of themselves as criminals were, you know, black marketeering or involving themselves in the black market. But, yeah, generally speaking, it was a very good time to be a criminal because the police and everybody were concerned, obviously, with bombs falling on houses and people dying in incendiary bombs.
Is there truth in the... Because I've read a thing about the... Well, the house would be bombed and people would be dead and then people would come and steal watches and things and things.
I'm afraid so, yeah.
It's really sort of grisly...
I'm afraid it is, because we think of it as our finest hour and, you know, the Blitz spirit and so on, but unfortunately there's always human nature, there's always another side to it. And, of course, there was a huge amount of bravery and camaraderie and communal spirit and so on, but there was also... So, moving on. Get this right and you can have your weight in points.
Ooh.
I'd like you to add these numbers up. Look at the screen, add up the numbers.
Hang on, pen.
Oh.
999.
No.
431.
No. I'll let you have, which the winner of this competition did not have, the opportunity to see it again. All right, again, 2-second burst. You can add that up.
I was about 897.
No. I mean, it'd be astonishing if you got it, but in Japan, where else, they have this, it's called flash anza. And actually, the world record holder had a shorter time than that. You have to correctly add 15 three-digit numbers, and he did it in 1.7 seconds. Now, there's a particular reason Japanese people are very good at this.
I think I know the reason. It's in Malcolm Gladwell's book. It's because of how they process, how the language processes numbers. There is a strange thing in Chinese and Japanese, in both languages, with the number, if you say the numbers together, it automatically adds them up, sort of linguistically.
Yes, but there's a really interesting addition to that, which is that what they're doing, and their fingers are the giveaway, they do this. What do you think that is?
That is a living one of those. It's a herd of those.
The answer, incidentally, was 1,966. But the secret actually is in the Chinese-Japanese abacus. Are they actually doing the action of the abacus?
Oh,
and the more amazing thing, perhaps, is that at the same time, they can have a conversation with someone. Because it's another part of the brain that's being engaged. And they'll say the answer, but they won't remember a single one of the numbers they added up. Jimmy, how many burglaries are committed in the UK by koalas every day?
Every day?
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing it's quite a low figure. Now, are we talking breaking and entering or planning to deprive of property on a continual basis because they're different charges?
The thing about koalas is they are the most law-abiding of all the bears.
Of course, they're not bears.
Order!
Yes, Alan.
They're not bears.
Thank you.
They've got a very long intestine. They sleep for 22 hours a day.
I tell you what, though, all the indigenous mammals in Australasia are marsupials.
Are therefore not mammals.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, it's fantastic. Did you know that? They're cats. They're cats, all of them.
I think they're big. Try to say something clever. Sorry, back to the knob gags.
Well, no, fair point. The things that are almost like furry, but aren't.
Well, if I said almost like furry, I would have sounded like Alan. There'd be no point to that. I was trying to be all clever.
Sorry, that koala, it looks like he's waiting for the fire brigade.
Look at his paws, though.
I was going to say, what's your favourite bit of the koala?
The paws are gorgeous.
Do you like the little hand?
I like the cock.
Oh, stop.
I told you.
Fluffy ears, or the little hard-nosy bit?
I want you, though, to concentrate on the paws.
I like the lips toasted.
Concentrate. Yes,
I've
Jimmy.
got it. Fingerprints, because koala fingerprints are indistinguishable from human fingerprints.
Fingerprints is right, Jimmy. Well, let's have a look. Let's see some human prints, some koala prints, and maybe some chimpanzee prints. Which is which, would you say?
Human print is on the left. No, it's not. It's in the middle.
So what's that? Human in the middle?
Yes.
Right, and chimpanzee and...
Oh, chimpanzee is on the right, and that one over there, that's a koala. I'm mistaken.
Oh, I wonder if you're right. No, it's a human on the left and a koala in the middle and a chimpanzee on the right. And even under a scanning electron microscope, it's incredibly hard to see any difference between a koala print and a human print. And the chimpanzee is very closely related.
That's extraordinary, because the koala evolved in isolation in Australasia.
It's called convergent evolution, where things that are evolving completely separately come up with similar solutions.
Or they were all made by God.
Or they were all made by God. So anyway, koalas have fingerprints are almost identical to human beings, and this was discovered by a Polish man called Henneberg, who is an anthropologist and paleopathologist, but also a dermatoglyphic expert. And the word dermatoglyphics means the study of fingerprints.
Yeah, of course it does.
And I'll give you 10 points if you can tell me what's unusual about this word. It shares a particular property with only one other word in the English language.
Does it have all the letters of the word dermatoglyphic in it?
Actually, the only other word that shares this property is the word uncopyrightable.
Is it the vowels in the right order?
No, they're the longest words in the English language, 15
Without
letters,
E in it?
with no repetition of a letter. Which all the letters are different.
That's
simple
fantastic.
as that. Solve this one for me, will you, please? I'm going to give you all muddled up.
Do
Can you do these?
smacks of
there we go.
bullying at school. Bullying. Yeah, anyone who couldn't do this got bullied.
How many combinations do you think there are?
I think there's...
Too many for my small brain.
It's actually 43...
1,000.
43.25 quintillion.
Shall I tell you how we did it in Croydon? We just picked them off.
There you go.
Way! Jimmy's done it. Alan, you're so close! Oh, you almost had it.
No, I forgot.
Messed it up.
Just start picking them off.
Do you know what's completely tragic? We told Jimmy and Alan how to do it with the 6 moves, and Jimmy remembered, but Alan unfortunately... Oh, he's done it! Have you? Any right, Reginald?
Well, I didn't receive that instruction.
You didn't get it? It was unfair on you two.
It's quite a lot of fun.
It is fun, isn't it?
It just brought back a lot of bad school memories.
I mean, as I say, it is a staggering number. It is more possible combinations than light travels inches in a century.
God.
There's the number up on the screen. It is such a huge number. It's inconceivably vast. But you can make it impossible. Do you know how to do that?
Take the stickers off?
Well, yeah, you should replace the stickers one with the other and so that it's actually never doable, which would drive people insane. But there are these.
Also, the other way you can make it impossible is to break someone's fingers.
Yeah, really nice. There's the 4x4, and you can imagine how many combinations there are of that. It's even more gigantic.
Probably 8 or 9, I imagine.
In 2010, which is quite a long time after the Rubik Cube became popular, science and computing finally came up with the minimum number of moves from any combination that it takes to solve the cube. Can you imagine how many that might be?
I bet it's
19.
12.
It's 20. It's called God's number, and it's just extraordinary.
Well, you say you were obsessed when you were a child. Under pressure, can we see if you can do it now?
Oh, gosh.
Come on, under
I can
pressure.
do the first 2 rows, but that's it. When I get to the top,
that's pretty messed up.
Oh, God.
OK, come on.
Oh, look.
OK, you're on the clock.
We've all got a long time ahead of us. I've got to decide which colours I'm... OK, all right, so that's going to be...
We need, like, a backing track for this, really. This needs...
Let's get green and... Oh, stop it. Oh, stop. You're being so unkind.
And you're out of time. And I
Stop
had a
it.
birthday.
Who goes
We
there?
could do one of those fade out, fade in.
goes there.
Let's get some beers.
Yeah,
Can we get some
sometime
beers?
later.
Right, so I've got all the middle ones here. Now we do the corners.
Well, kick back, go to the bar, come back in a couple of hours.
That's it. So I've got those 4 there and those 2 middle ones.
You should be able to do it within 20 moves, Stephen.
Yeah, I know that. But I can't.
It's the Goths number, you know.
Yeah, don't be mean to me.
Takes an atheist a lot longer.
Yeah. There's the first layer.
I'm going to play the sound of someone typing. What do you think they are trying to say?
We don't know any Shakespeare. We're only monkeys.
So why might we know, just from the sound, what somebody is actually trying to say?
Do they have a slightly different pitch, all of the buttons?
Yeah, so it's the QWERTY keyboard, and it can be translated, if you like, to work out what we are typing. If you had just a microphone, hackers would be able to discover your logins, your password, any other confidential information that you might be typing, because each key hits a different part of the keyboard's underplate, and there is a slightly different sound for every single one. And there's an algorithm which can be used to work out which sound corresponds with which letter.
Jimmy looks worried.
I'm going to have to learn to write again. Presumably, for each keyboard, it would be different.
Well, you just need 10 minutes with one keyboard with a microphone.
Is this for a typewriter or for a keyboard?
For a computer keyboard. Computer scientists at the University of California in Berkeley estimate hackers would need 10 minutes and they could crack anybody's computer code.
What about an iPad?
No, I don't think it would work on that, but it would work on a computer...
Do your dirty work on an iPad, Jimmy.
My dirty work.
And now I imagine that dirty work is Jimmy's password.
What is it about boys? Because you don't type with 2 hands like that. Every time I'm on a train, there's some boy typing and he's doing this.
Yeah.
Mavis Deacon did me proud, that little typing thing.
Oh, yeah.
When I was at school, we were all taught to type, and they used to tie an apron to the top of the typewriter and then round your neck, and then so you had to type underneath the apron so you couldn't see.
At the boys' school, Sandy, you're taught to dictate.
I think the key part of that word is dick.
That was very good. Could you just take that down for us?
We can actually reveal, Alan, what was being typed. Alan.
Say blue. Or 100 point. Blue whale.
Yeah, it's too late now. A guy called Leroy Anderson, American composer, who wrote the Typewriter Symphony, where the typewriter is used as a percussion instrument. It's one of my favourites. Have a quick look at this video. Isn't that wonderful?
That's a guy that forgot his instrument and refused to back down.
It's a trained percussionist who does it. They slightly cheat. They modify the typewriter so only 2 keys are working. So otherwise you'd get it jammed, wouldn't you, if you played like that? I absolutely love it. How can you tell if a PC is cut out for the job?
Is it about...
Yes.
Making dummy policemen?
Yes.
And then deterring criminals by placing them strategically?
This is exactly right. So you get points, everybody gets points.
I'm slightly miffed that I finally get points and everyone else gets points as well.
I know, life's a bugger. Various police forces have experimented with stationing cardboard cutout police officers at potential crime scenes instead of actual officers, and they have experienced, honestly, startling results. In 2013, the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority Police, they put 2 cutouts in bike rack cages at a place called Alewife Station, and theft rates instantly fell by 2/3. So let me give you a sense of what that is like. I have here my... Yes, I know.
Oh, they've made him deliberately tall.
No. He's regular height.
No, he isn't. No, he isn't.
No, he's enormous.
He's standing on
his head's that wide.
Let's all get out.
Come on, let's all have a picture with the police. Come, Sally, come and smile with the policeman. This is a photo you'll never see again. Hang on a second.
Opportunity doesn't come down.
Grandpa's got his camera. Darling, that's the audience.
I'm so sorry. Listen. It's amazing. I got so many photographs of my right ear. You wouldn't believe it.
No, I absolutely would believe it.
They're filming this, Giles.
You do
I'll do it. There we go.
Okay.
There we go. It's smiling, everybody. Here we go.
You haven't got the policeman in it now.
I don't give a fuck about the policeman.
May I share something with you?
What I know about you, Giles, is there's no stopping you once you've decided.
Well, all I will tell you is this. The uniform isn't necessary. I only know this because I happen to have made a one-show film about this very subject.
Oh, right.
And it turns out that it's entirely the eyes looking at you that make the difference. It turns out that it is the head and the eyes in particular that looking at people makes them stop doing whatever they were thinking of doing.
That's true. Yeah. Thames Valley Police, they rotate 2 life-size cutouts between the shops in Oxford, Windsor, Maidenhead and Ascot, apparently, and that deters shoplifters.
I think I can tell they're not real policemen. Because it's the way they're floating.
I have to say the Police Federation are not too thrilled with this. They reckon that it's an attempt to avoid paying salary and pension costs, and of course it is, absolutely it is.
It's also a bit embarrassing for them that they're just as effective as a real policeman.
Well, if you want to do embarrassing, I think this is even more embarrassing. Several forces have admitted suffering theft of their cardboard policemen. 3 gone missing from filling stations in Derbyshire, 2 were stolen in Cleveland, and Humberside lost 1 from the Tesco supermarket in Grimsby.
I noticed that they're all men policemen. Think how more effective it would be if they had women police persons in uniform looking at you beadily. That really, when you're frightened of your mother as I am, that would have...
Or just your mother in a uniform.
Oh. I saw those pictures before my father burnt them.
Why was it hard for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle?
Guys, to the right.
This is because it was a gate, wasn't it? It was a gate.
No. Christ, if you remember, says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God.
Of course, and these were the days before liquidizers.
Yeah.
So there was no chance of pureeing up the thing and getting a straw. And I mean, it would be a mess, but it would be doable, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, because remember, this is a rich man we're talking about. He would have people to do this for him.
He'd have all the white goods, wouldn't he? You know?
Yeah.
If there's anything.
Obviously, what happened is a lot of rich men read the Bible and thought, that can't be right, surely. So there are two get-out clauses. One was this idea that there was an eye of the needle gate in Jerusalem city walls, but there is absolutely no contemporary historical or archaeological evidence.
Well, actually, in biblical times, women's hands were significantly bigger than they are today. So a needle's eye could be 40 or 50 foot across. Enormous.
You still want that rich man to get through, don't you?
Well, the thing is, what someone told me, I might say, at my bloody school, which is still going, and it turns out it's talking bullshit.
I bet it was a private school.
Private school
where they don't like to get on the wrong side of rich people.
There are two sorts of gate to get into cities in those days. One that was quite wide, one that was quite narrow, and a fully laden camel couldn't squeeze through quite a narrow gate, and those were called eyes of needles. And what Jesus wasn't doing was being sort of sarky and going, it's about as easy for a rich man to get into heaven as to get a planet into a shoe. He was actually saying that if the camel was no longer fully laden, hence the wealth had been, dumped somewhere, then the camel went in easy as
I
you
don't know
like.
how rich you are if all your stuff is on the back of one camel.
But it depends if it's diamonds.
Yeah, damn
really rich. They hadn't found all the South African diamond mines then, so diamonds worth even more.
Yeah, good point.
The coronation of George IV, all the diamonds in the crown jewels were hired. The King of England wasn't rich enough to own enough diamonds for one poxy coronation. That's how expensive diamonds
Can you
were.
hire
now
diamonds?
any sort of rap star's got
Of course
loads.
you can. At the Oscars, all the actors hire diamonds.
That would be the Everest of unsure engagements, wouldn't it? I've just rented this for a week. Let's see how things go. Let's wait till after you put
But
it
no,
out.
you're absolutely right, David. That is precisely what...
Jesus was being
Jesus
sarcastic.
meant exactly what he said.
Should have just said, you can't. If you're rich, you're going to hell.
Yeah. How does the love bomb work?
I turn up and I get on with it. Isn't a love bomb a bottom noise that can be made whilst you're making love? You know that sometimes you're enjoying something and then all of a sudden, you know it's a bit awkward and you pretend you haven't heard it.
Rob, can I remind you of something?
I like the fact
Your father is in the audience. Just thought I'd remind you.
He's up there going, that's my boy. You're putting Wales on the map, Robert.
This kind of sophisticated humour, you're quite right. So,
lets off something that makes everyone feel loved up. It's like a big ecstasy bomb.
Yeah, you're sort of right. In 1994, the Americans worked on the idea of a bomb that would contain an aphrodisiac. I quote of the plan here, it's been declassified 2 years ago. One distasteful but completely non-lethal example would be strong aphrodisiacs, especially if the chemical also caused homosexual behaviour. Oh. The idea was to make the troops...
That's the best example we could find. Homosexual behaviour.
What have you been putting in my tea, then?
The idea was that that they would all start loving each other up.
How many circles does hell have?
Someone just went, 7. Was that for me? Were you trying to...
That person was wrong. There are not 7 circles.
It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire all over again with the coughing.
Yes.
5.
5. Why 5?
Did you say hell or the Olympic rings?
These are concentric circles of doom that, depending on how bad you've been.
It just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and then the devil's in the middle.
OK.
Who is the person who wrote about the circles of hell?
Dante.
Dante, so in Dante's Inferno...
Nine.
Absolutely.
Nine
Circles in Hell. So the first part of the epic poem, the Divine Comedy. So the seventh circle is the one everybody talks about, but there's nothing special about it. It's where murderers are punished.
Oh.
Isn't there a weird thing where murderers are punished there, but then it gets worse if you're a fraudster, which I'm annoyed about? It's just made like there's a murderer, and then in a worse place is me and my accountant going, what?
Well, you do strike me, Jimmy, as someone that eventually will murder as well.
Just to get out of hell one step at a time.
You're going to end up in the eighth circle of hell.
The eighth?
Yes.
OK.
It's where fraudsters, pimps, hypocrites, coin forgers and flatterers are punished in, frankly, various...
Flatterers? You look well, Sandy.
So what, being a suck-up is as bad as being Jimmy? A bit as
Yeah, so flatterers get immersed in dung. That's their thing.
Oh, OK.
Quacks have to suffer the ailments that they've caused in life. People who try to predict the future have to walk around with their head on backwards, unable to see ahead.
What about Daily Mail readers? Are they in number 9?
We know what circle Jimmy's in. See if anybody else wants one of these. First circle is just basically limbo. It's for virtuous non-Christians, so...
Gary Lineker.
Why Gary Lineker?
I just say that about any ex-Tottenham player. First circle of hell, straight away.
Second one is lust. This is the first of the circles of incontinence.
Can I go back to 1, please?
Sexual incontinence rather than urinary, if I may say so. So you would be spending your time with Cleopatra, Helen of Troy, people like that.
And you get to spend time with Helen of Troy?
Yeah.
That put me down for one of those, yeah.
Yeah. It's too late, you're already in number 8.
This is quite a sexy circle, isn't it? This
Yeah,
one?
that's a good circle. Gluttony, that's number 3, trapped in a vile slush. Greed is number 4.
Sorry, what flavour was the slush?
I like the blue one. I like the blue one.
The blue one is good. You get to be pounded by icy rain. I don't know if you fancy.
Oh, it is? It's literally slush?
Yeah.
Is greed in a different category to gluttony?
Yes, and they have to push rocks around pointlessly.
Is there a way of pushing rocks around that isn't pointless?
That's curling, right?
How many Spartans died at the Battle of Thermopylae?
Oh. It can be 300. Well, I saw a documentary about this.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's definitely 300.
The film is called 300.
Is there not a thing that one... Because there weren't just Spartans there.
Sparta!
There were...
That is how it's pronounced.
There weren't just Spartans there. There were other... But I think one of the Spartans sound
There was
nasty.
a narrow coastal pass that was defended just by Spartans, 300 of them, plus their king, played by Gerard Butler, who was...
Spartan!
Called...
The 301st?
His name was... He was the 301st. Leonidas, if you prefer.
Leonidas.
He's
now got a chain of chocolate shops.
I was brought up to call him Leonidas, but Leonidas seems to be the way now. I don't know. Who knows? But Leonidas or Leonidas, thank you. He defended a narrow coastal pass, and so they're 301. Only 299 Spartans died, though, so it leaves 2 who didn't. Leonidas did. 2 survived because they never took part.
Mike and Bernie Winters.
A lot of nudity going on, which was a very Spartan thing.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got his sword.
The couple by the tree seemed very fond of each other, one's grasping the nipple of the other. Their swords casually laid against
so
them.
much effort and not put your pants on.
I know.
There's something about one of the ones that they were ashamed.
They were desperately ashamed. One called rather wonderfully Pan-Titties. It's a bit like...
Do you mean pantitis?
There was an MP who was introduced to Churchill whose name was Bossum, and Churchill said neither one thing nor the other. But anyway, Pan-Titties or Pant-Titties or whatever he was, Pantites, went off to deliver a diplomatic message, apparently, an embassy, and he hanged himself from shame when he got back and saw that he was the only survivor. In fact, he wasn't the only survivor, because Eurytus couldn't fight because of an eye infection. The Spartans have taken all the credit for the winning of the Battle of Thermopylae, but it was very much a combined effort with the Athenians, who were their allies at the time. Herodotus, known as the father of history, who was born 4 years after the battle, is the closest contemporary source, and he estimated the Greeks numbered about 5,000.
He was born 4 years after it happened.
Yeah,
but he's the
closest.
best we can do.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
That's all right, then.
No one else wrote
That's
no one
better
else.
than a lot of ancient history.
The father of history, what's he called?
Herodotus.
Herodotus. Because it must have been a lot easier when he was around. I'm not having a go at him.
No, it's a fair
But less
point.
things had happened back then.
Fewer things.
Yes.
I think. Someone would tell you that.
Common usage. Play common usage cards.
It's so like being back at school. It's unbelievable.
Apparently, you can say less or if you want to now.
Yeah.
Apparently, you can just say what you like these days. Apparently, that's
You can literally say less if you want.
Apparently, you're not allowed to scream idiot at people. What was the point in getting an education at all? I know how to use the apostrophe. Apparently, now it doesn't matter. What I want the time it took me to learn that back.
You need to be less bothered about this, or fewer bothered. You need to be fewer bothered about this kind of thing. Just let it go. Be fewer upset.
How many time zones are there in China? Oh. Yes, Jimmy.
1.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
No, don't even explain. Let's just enjoy that moment for a second. I don't know anything on this bloody show.
Yeah, that's absolutely
it's
right.
1,
Why
actually.
do you think that?
What? Do you know what? That's not important. What matters is there's 1 time zone in China.
Yeah.
You can take that to the bank.
Yeah.
I imagine the Communist Party decided what the time was, and that was it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, given the size of the nation, you would think that it would be many different...
4.
At least 4. But it's always Beijing time, no matter where you are. So if it is noon in Beijing, then 3,000 miles away, it is also noon. It was standardised time in 1949, following the Revolution and the Civil War.
Was there people in the middle of the night, like, forcing lunch down them?
Yes.
Lunchtime again.
Yes. In the summer, there are places where the sun sets in the middle of the night, and then in the winter, the sunrise might not come until 10 o'clock in the morning. First adoption of standard time in Britain, why did we adopt it?
Was that wartime?
No, 1847. So we're talking about the railways. It's because there's no point in having the railways if you're all on different times.
You say that, but I don't know if you've used Southern Rail.
GMT, we start to get it. 1855, about 98% of the country is using it, and then it became Britain's legal time in 1880. But there were still places, some British clocks have got 2-minute hands. So there's a still working public clock over the old Corn Exchange in Bristol, and it has a black minute hand for GMT, and it has a red minute hand for what was known as Bristol time, and it's 10 minutes behind. And that clock is still working.
10 minutes behind.
I've done some gigs in Bristol, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't get it straight away. I think they might be in.
How much are you worth?
Well, I mean, if you sold all your bits...
Basically, yeah. As a human, not forgetting your bank account and your social
your kidneys
entity.
and your liver and your...
Let's start with your... I mean, very basically, just your meat. There
Your
was
flesh.
Your flesh, if you prefer to call it that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who you're going to sell it to. I mean, possibly Lidl, Aldi, maybe.
Yeah.
Take it.
In Moldova, there were a couple of women stopped who were selling human flesh, and they were charging £1.30 a kilo. So that would make the average-ish human be about £100 of flesh.
I think you'd go for more.
I might be
if
more.
you had a restaurant in Chelsea.
And we think there's a problem with the national debt. We're sitting on a gold mine.
We are, yeah.
There's 60 million of you out there.
And there's leather, there's a skin.
But there's a... isn't there sort of a scientific thing here? Because you've got a very tiny bit of calcium in your body. But that's saleable if you could take it out. Or there's tiny bits of...
Oh, yeah,
metals,
it's gold.
They're gold?
Yes, yes.
In me?
0.4 of a milligram. 0.4 of a milligram, worth about 8 pence.
It's something.
Yeah, it's a trace of...
Do you remember the German who advertised on the internet and said, I would like to invite you over and eat your body. And someone said, yes, I would like you to do that. So they met and he went round to his flat and they said, good evening, would you like a drink? Yes, thank you. And I'm going to kill you now.
Did they not get confused because they both sounded alike? You know the weird thing about that, though? When that guy, that did happen, and he killed the guy, but the guy that came first backed out of it at the last minute. He had him all tied up and he was about to kill him, and he went, oh, I don't really fancy it. And they watched Ocean's 12 instead, and then he went home.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's the guy that kind of got away.
Yeah, I've seen Ocean's 12. I'm not sure that was a good deal.
I'd rather be eaten.
So, OK, we got the meat. The meat's £100. What about leather? So you've got skin. How much does your skin weigh?
Yeah.
40 quid. I'll give you 40 quid.
The biggest organ in the body, isn't it, or something?
Well, it's large-ish. I mean, it's about £8, 3.6 kilograms. So.
I would hope mine would go to Louis Vuitton.
But, well, it could do. It's an area. It's about 22 square foot, about the size of an average door, say. Is that? And if you were charging the same as cowhide, that would be only about £20, I'm afraid.
It'd be a shame if you ended up bag for life.
Yeah. It'd be most unfortunate.
I think the coin purse alone would fetch a couple of grand.
The coin purse. Very nicely put.
My Jimmy Carr coin
But then we come to the big ones, the transplantable organs. A pair of corneas could be £4,000, just the corneas. So you get good money for your eyes. And how much do you pay for a heart, a human heart, do you think, on the
£50,000.
Well, not bad. 40,000 you can probably get one for.
What about a kidney? That's the classic thing.
Anything from 10 to 20,000 for a kidney.
You know, last year I donated a kidney.
Did you?
Yeah, of course, they wanted to know where I got it from.
Lungs?
25,000.
75. 75. They're very valuable,
yeah,
£75,000.
Very valuable.
So basically, if you, all your body parts sold, we reckon about £400,000. So you've got £400,120 so far.
So the thing is, when you get your donor card,
yeah,
it says, will you donate your stuff?
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, OK, I'll donate it.
Yeah.
You should be able to sell it, shouldn't you?
You could, I suppose.
I carry a donor card, but I...
Well, that's so you can get a kebab at night.
No, what I've done is I carry it, but I haven't signed it, because I want someone else to have the use of it after I've died.
What do vegetarian goat suckers eat?
Can you show that on television?
I think that's taking vaping too far. So vegetarian goat suckers, what do they eat?
He must eat the rest of the goat, surely, before it becomes his instrument.
It's a vegetarian goat sucker. So...
Just know you saying that. What's a goat sucker?
It's a kind of bird. It's an order of birds called goat suckers. And they were named because there was an ancient belief that they lived nocturnally sucking the milk from the teats of goats, which sent them blind.
Oh, God. Oh, I know.
Feels like a fun-size owl.
Well...
Like if you're like, oh, I want to get an owl, but I haven't got the space.
Yeah.
They're
called oil birds, also known as guacharo, and they are the only vegetarian species of goat suckers. Most goat suckers eat insects. These oil birds eat fruit.
So you said that like it's like a huge surprise to us. Well, I only just heard they existed. You went, these are the only ones that are vegetarians. Well, I've just found... I mean, I literally couldn't care less. I'm speaking on behalf of everyone in the room when I say... Yeah, these are the only vegetarian ones. Well, let's get this down. What are you talking about? You've lost your mind.
They live in caves in the northern part of South America.
Well, no wonder they're vegetarian. What is there to eat in there?
Well, the thing about them is they get so fat from the fruit that they eat that they become incredibly plump, and there's an annual oil harvest where people take the plump babies, they're thousands, the local people, and they render them for the oil, because apparently it's excellent for fuel and also for cooking.
Do they still suck the goats?
Nobody sucks goats. It's... There is no goat sucking.
How do you get the oil out of the bird?
Well, like, you can render any bird for its fat, can't you? If you ever cooked a duck, you can get an enormous amount of duck fat.
Imagine a world where I've never cooked a duck. We're not really on the same wavelength here at all. I remember when Sandy had a breakdown on television and she was talking about goat suckers. and then we just gave up. We asked about 3 times, what has this goat got to do with anything? And she just went, oh, it's a bird. But then she kept on talking about goats for ages before, but then we just let it go.
People look at the tipping point, they say it was one show too many. And she explained to everyone, it's the only vegetarian goat sucker, but it doesn't suck goats. It doesn't even do it. And she thought it made sense.
Yeah, and then she was someone's mother-in-law, and then she ended up in an asylum. To visit her.
There was an ancient belief that they sucked the teats of goats for the milk, but they don't. Sometimes in the old days, they got things wrong.
Thousands of years ago, somebody went, I bet they sucked the teats of goats.
Yes, exactly.
Let's call them goat suckers. And
Yes,
then
and
everyone else went, but they don't do that. I've named them now! Okay, I've written it down in the bird book.
It's like that joke, you shag one sheep.
Yeah, exactly.
What is this island called?
Newfoundland.
I'm going to have to shoot you now. No, it isn't the correct pronunciation.
Newfoundland. Hey, enough violence on this show.
Yeah. Newfoundland is the correct pronunciation, and in 1876, a man was killed during a brawl over the correct pronunciation.
Oh, we were lucky, weren't we? We got right.
Two mill workers, William Aitchison and John Davis, one thought it was Newfoundland and one thought it was Newfoundland. Aitchison threw a punch, Davis drew his gun and killed Aitchison. He got away, Davis, and he spent 37 years on the run. So there's a really...
Davis?
Yes, Davis.
Any relation?
Yeah.
Possibly.
John Davis, dangerous man.
I had a great uncle who emigrated to Canada.
Did he go to Newfoundland?
Newfoundland.
I think he went to Quebec, actually.
And you inherited your shirt from him.
Anyway, just to finish the story, Davis, who killed Aitchison, he ran away for 37 years, and then on his deathbed, 1912, he's in a hospital in Peoria, in Illinois, and he feels so bad about it that he confesses on his deathbed, and then recovered and had to go on the run again.
I think he said, oh, I did that murder in Newfoundland. No, it's Newfoundland!
But actually, both men were right, because at the time, both pronunciations were perfectly acceptable. It's only fairly recently that people have gone a bit...
And what is it now? Without looking?
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland?
Newfoundland.
OK, and presumably if people are watching this in Newfoundland, they're shouting at their television.
Yes, they're probably...
They're all idiots. I have a constant argument with the pronunciation of Canadian places. My other half is Canadian, and everything seems to be pronounced a little bit faster than it should be. So it's Toronto, not Toronto.
Oh, is it?
Toronto.
Toronto.
Toronto. Like, as quick as you possibly can, like it's a crime to say it. Toronto.
I love Toronto. There used to be a bar there called the... Sorry, Toronto. There used to be a bar there called the Betty Ford Clinic. What's not to like? There's some fantastic names in Newfoundland. Conception Bay South is the second largest town.
Conception Bay South is, yeah.
It's Conception Bay South, maybe there's north.
That's what I call it. She doesn't like it. She thinks it's too formal. Come on, love, let's have a look at Conception Bay South. I bought you dinner, we saw the movie you wanted. Come on.
We're moving on to Conception Bay North, I suppose.
Well, that's a special treat for birthdays.
It's possible
Which way up is she? Hang on.
It's possible that a girl may prefer the Newfoundland town of Dildo or Eastern Tickle, which I like very much.
Do you?
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Not bad for me age. Oddly enough, we start with Oddball game. So you've each got a selection of odd balls under your desks.
Oddballs coming up.
Kindly invent a new ball game, and I would like you to use your heads.
That was funny.
What did it?
I threw it at his head, look.
Again. Can we have it thrown back by somebody?
Somebody will
Can we throw the
throw it,
ball
I'm
back
sure.
again?
Come on.
Oh, what?
Unbelievable. If it comes over here again, I'll put a bloody knife through it.
Curmudgeonly old man.
There is a German game called Hedis, and it is ping-pong played without a bat, where you just hit it with your head. So it was invented by a sports science student called... Yes, but don't forget the net.
The net?
Yes, so there's a net in the way, right? OK, you ready? Try now. Yes!
Can you get that?
It was in 2006. His name is René Wagner, and he invented this game, Hedis. It is now played internationally. It is on the official sports programme of 15 German universities. And have a look at this, because the top players are extraordinary, and they use sort of nom de guerre. There's things like the sausage seller, leak face, and Bob the Headmaster, which I'm very pleased with, and they had astonishing rallies.
So they've replaced the bat with their heads. I suppose it's better than the ball.
I'm thinking of the corners of the table.
Oh, yes. Another ball game we discovered is a Swiss game called Hornussen, and this is one of Switzerland's national sports. You have two teams, but there seems to be no limit to the size of the team or the size of the pitch. And there is a ball which stands on this little thing like this, and then what looks like a bendy golf club. Right? You hit the ball and it goes out into a field, and then the opposition have these enormous sort of placards. So here the guy hits the ball. Bendy golf club. Yeah. And then a guy with the placard tries to stop the ball. OK? And yes, a lot of shouting. And then, oh, there they are. But there seems to be no limit. It's been around since the 17th century, and it evolved from the ancient tradition of hitting burning logs down the mountainside to expel evil spirits. But the ball can go up to 306 kilometres per hour. I mean, it's a fantastically fast thing.
Wow. Well, that explains why that fella in the video didn't have many teeth left.
Yeah, I think that's it.
300 kilometres an hour?
Yeah, yeah.
That's really fast.
It's really fast.
It would tell us a lot about the human mind to know exactly when in history people went from, well, it's very important that we hit this burning thing down the mountain to ward off evil spirits, to let's just make a massive game of it.
It's a huge, hilarious game. One I like is a game called Pushball. So there was a guy called Moses Crane in the 1890s who watched a lot of American football, and he got confused. You know, in the American football, they always have the sort of like a scrum, and he couldn't find the ball, so he invented this game. It's a 6-foot ball that weighs 50 pounds.
Wow. So those guys are about to die.
No, the idea is you have to either get it across the line or you have to get it across a crossbar. People played it on horseback.
Is that the American remake of The Prisoner?
OK, balls away. Please.
Balls away. What mania was started by a few myopic Merseysiders?
Weirdly, no, but...
Yeah?
No, okay, go. Does this buzzer stop Jimmy speaking? Try again.
I was just going to say to do... There's some support for it. I find the buzzers really disconcerting. It does feel like someone's about to get murdered in a dark.
I don't even... There's childish ghost cries.
Mice.
It's usually the Beatles, isn't it?
Yeah, it's usually the Beatles.
Usually the
The
Beatles.
Beatles is what you're saying.
It's
They're the
usually
Beatles.
the Beatles.
He's saying the Beatles. Oh, they're all asleep. Very good. No, is the answer. It was a mania, but not Beatlemania, on Merseyside.
Myopic Merseyside. Myopic's short-sighted, is it?
Yes, myopic short-sighted.
Partially sighted.
So what M could help you with partial sightedness?
My glasses.
Yes. Or any particular type of ophthalmic instrument that would help that began with
Monocle.
M. Monocle is the right answer. There we yeah, very good. It was a crazy square.
I only knew that because there happens to be a monocle next to me.
It was a bit of a giveaway. There you are. Pop them in. It was a fashion thing that seemed to sweep Liverpool.
I can imagine it taking off again, to be honest.
Yeah, you do look great.
Very good.
John Jimmy!
Oh, my goodness.
My old pal!
What are you laughing at?
Jimmy, you have never looked more like a ventriloquist doll.
He really did look like an old child, so...
And that feels felt slightly haunted. Wow, thank you for putting your hand there, by the way. Really special.
They won't fit because monocles had to be made to fit, which is why they were expensive, and because they were expensive, they were associated with the upper classes. And even when you wear them, it's very hard not to look rather kind of like that, isn't it?
At what point in history did someone just go make that mental leap between I've got it here and I've got like a little bridge here?
It'll never take
maybe
off.
just
Well,
put another one.
it's funny you should say that. Which came first, the monocle or the spectacles?
I'm going to say the spectacle.
Yes, the spectacles by hundreds of years. When do you think
What?
the monocle came in?
1974.
No. They came in the 1800s, and they were instantly a success, but they were expensive, and we associate them with, I suppose...
Oh, there I am.
There you are, yeah.
I had all three of them.
They knocked that up pretty quickly.
Yeah. But something gave them a rather bad image in the 20th century.
Californian
Nazis.
vegetables.
Nazis and in fact...
Californian vegetables. My Californian vegetables. By Jove, they're awfully good.
So, yeah, they were
instantly posher.
Aristocrats, German soldiers, generals, Ludendorff War One, Krebs, various of those figures there.
No.
Yeah, they were. That was
advanced.
They really did never stop trying to look more evil, did they? Well, what can we add to this? I've got the, the skull and crossbones. I've got the weird look. I've got the steely eyes. I know. I'll put one spectacle lens over here.
What about a monocle? That would make us more evil.
What is the most dangerous sport in fact, the most dangerous country in the world?
Contemporary dance in Scotland. Hopscotch in Afghanistan? I don't know.
You're very close.
Well, it's going to be Afghanistan or Iraq, isn't it? They're quite
odd enough, in between those two.
Kazakhstan.
No, a much better known one.
Subazakistan?
It's another stan, but the best known stan. Pakistan.
Pakistan. They play a lot of cricket.
They do play cricket there, but they also have this very dangerous sport. So dangerous, it's been banned for all but 15 days of the year. It's a child's pastime that has become aggressive and extreme.
Conkers?
No. It's mentioned and indeed sung about in Mary Poppins.
Buckaroo.
Mary Poppins.
Flying a kite.
Flying a kite. The idea of extreme kite flying is
dangerous.
You have to sever your competitor's... You have to sever your competitor's kite from its string, and so the string's actually made of metal with glass, sharp, abrading glass. And motorcyclists get garroted, because hundreds of people do it all over the country.
Who told you this, Stephen? This is not... This doesn't happen.
I'm afraid it does.
No, I saw it, Channel 5, when kiters go bad.
They shout, "Bo-kata," kite down.
What about when they garrot someone? What do they shout then? Oops.
Yes, probably. It's the spring festival of Vasant Panchami, or Basant is when it happens. And there's people against it. The Kite Flying Effectees Committee, people who are affected by kite flying, have tried to ban it completely.
Do all the kites have to have the face of Des Lynam on them?
He is a god in Pakistan.
Yeah.
How big can a kite be? What's the heaviest kite you
Huge.
could have?
They could weigh anything up to 4 tons.
Well, the largest kite ever made weighs nearly a ton.
100 metres
48
long.
foot by 36 foot.
And how many people does it take to fly that, then?
50.
50 people,
yeah.
50 men, it says here.
50 men or 25 fat birds.
It has 200 strings. The smallest is 1.25 inches across.
You can get them in the market and stuff. You see those blokes doing those tiny kites? Have you seen them?
No.
Miniature kites.
That's right.
On bridges and things or something.
Oh, do they? You started using an electric fan, one of those little handheld electric fans that just flies up.
Yeah.
Invisible string, which makes it very pleasing.
Then you go home and cry. What am I doing? What the hell am I doing in my life? I want to be a doctor. Look, everybody. Oh, what's that point?
Name and shame the world's cheapest cheapskate.
Just a little more time. Was it Diogenes the Cynic?
Wow.
Oh, you've seen this show before, haven't you?
Well, oh yes.
I think you're slightly aroused.
Can confirm, Slack.
Well, Diogenes the Cynic was a famous cheapskate in the ancient world, and he lived in a barrel.
He did.
And he eschewed material possessions, apart from a loincloth and a little bowl so he could drink water. And then apparently he saw a little boy drinking water from the river just with his hands, and so he eschewed the bowl as well, leaving him with just the loincloth and the barrel.
Very good answer. It's a good human answer, but there's...
Are we still looking for somebody else?
There's an animal answer, yeah.
Tight-fisted animal.
There's a species of insect that gives gifts. Because that's our theme, really, gifts.
Oh, the sort of male gives a gift to the female.
In order to mate.
To mate, yes.
Yeah, and it's particularly prevalent amongst males who are afraid of being eaten by their mates.
Oh, things like...
to distract them.
Praying mantises and things like that.
Yeah, insects and flies of various kinds.
The black widow spider.
The spider famously does that, hence the name, obviously, the black widow, because it eats...
It's terribly exciting and erotic, isn't it? The idea that you've got this huge female you're trying to have sex with, you give her a gift, and if it's the wrong gift, she'll eat you.
Yeah, it's ultimate, isn't it?
Well, you must have a film like that in your collection.
Yeah, no, you get that with sort of, you know, you brought back KFC, she goes, no, I wanted Nando's. She's livid, you're out.
Yep. Well, there are these flies called the dance flies, and they are often the gift is wrapped in silk or in a balloon formed from the male's anal secretions.
I'm sorry, but it's...
What?
Wow.
Hey, that's just what I wanted, darling.
I heard a great story recently about someone being on a date with a guy, and he leaned over to her plate, took a massive bit of her food, look, without saying anything, and ate it. Did it again like 30 seconds later. Did it again for the third time. And all she said was, what are you doing? And he said, I'm paying for it, aren't I?
Wow.
Magnificently cheap
on
thing.
So many levels, that is just... Wow.
Staggering.
They say of the Acropolis, where the Parthenon is... They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is... They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is... that they...
It turns out they didn't say anything at all. I think it might
They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is...
Everyone! They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is. They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is. They say where the Parthenon is. Fight!
Bloody hell, Stephen. This better be good.
Moving on. So, the triglyph is a remnant of the stone.
Sorry, I've just got a question. What do they say about the Acropolis where the Parthenon is?
They say...
What do they say? What do they say?
He's going to say, he's going to say, he's going to say, he's going to say, he's going to say. What do they say about the Acropolis where the Parthenon is?
Can I write it down? Read it, it says it there.
What you got to tell us now?
They say of the Acropolis that there are no straight lines. Damn, that hurt.
Do they?
Yeah.
Whatever.
What kind of animal can you eat without killing it? Reg.
Crabs, unintentionally. In the south.
Yeah.
In the deep south, in the bayou, on the bayou. Yeah, freshwater mussels, they just pick them right out of the water, and they'll have these tiny pink crabs crawling on them, and they're considered a delicacy. And they're alive. They're alive when you swallow them.
These are things you can eat fully, animal food stuff, but you don't kill the animal.
So something that sort of comes through like sweet corn, except it's still running around. Oh! Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying it passes through the entire digestive system.
Right,
no.
oh, right.
No.
But it stays in you and this sets up a community.
Whatever they put in Yakult.
Well,
They witter on about that, don't they? Yes, bifidus digestivum.
How?
Or L. casei
How stupid do they think we are?
David, you know these things. I'm so
as
impressed.
I spend a lot of time watching television, and listening to the new made-up science is very entertaining.
I love the made-up science where they go, do you want to buy a tiny pot of off milk?
Yes! And they say it's always such a good deal. Just try it for 9 weeks. And then if you don't feel better, then give up. Because actually, if everyone tries it for 9 weeks, we're in the money.
No, because, I mean, actually, in a sense, you're probably right about bacteria, which would possibly pass through us and all the way and not be killed. But this is actually a delicacy. I'm inclined to give the point to Rich, because he's sort of accidentally right, only he's sort of wrong as well.
It's not a story of my life.
It's one of the most popular foods, almost a national dish in some ways, of Florida.
Tapeworm.
Not tapeworm. No, it's a type of crab. It's a stone crab.
Oh, right.
Stone crab claws are very popular. There is a stone crab. And the fishermen catch the crab, they snap off the claws and throw the crab back in. And it takes about a year for its claws to grow back. But it is considered a great delicacy, usually served with a sort of butter and mustard sauce. Very popular, indeed, in restaurants up and down America, but particularly, as I say, in Florida.
What does it do for a year, then? Armless down, wandering about.
I mean, it's up to himself.
So the crab is dismayed when it loses its claws, thinking, now I can't get any work done. All that stuff, I'm trying to rearrange the seabed. It'll be a year before I can do any of that. I'm just going to have to lay up. It's almost like they're sort of fruit-bearing animals, aren't they?
That's pretty similar to that, exactly. Yeah. Like an apple tree has its apples taken off, but next year it grows more apples.
So maybe they're trees. They're just seafoody trees.
Yeah,
they can walk around.
Same DNA.
You could have given me as an answer as well. There are certain tribesmen in the Masai Mara in northern Tanzania and Kenya who will drink the blood of cattle. You know, not kill them, but sort of slit the throat a bit and drink the blood, mix it with milk, actually. And then they bind up the wound again, and so they don't kill the cow. But that practice is dying out a bit.
They mix it with milk, so they think that cattle have two drinks. You can have one or the other, or a mixture of the two. Fantastic, these two-drink animals.
Anyway, stone crabs it is. They're returned to the sea alive and their claws have been taken off. Over the next year, they grow a replacement, although it's never quite as good as the first one. What are the advantages and disadvantages of guide horses for the blind?
Well, I'm going to say the obvious one is the fact that it could give you a lift. If you've got a guide dog, you have to walk with it. If you've got a guide horse, you'd be crazy not to climb on, wouldn't you?
Yeah. You are aware they exist, though. Did you know that?
I wasn't aware they existed.
I can't imagine it.
I
It's a nice surprise. You didn't know? No. They use these miniature horses as guide horses.
But hang on, I'm sorry. So there's a blind person walking a Shetland pony?
It's smaller even than a Shetland pony.
Oh, okay, and even smaller. But is the blind person must be aware of the people whispering, "Oh God, somebody's nicked their dog."
You can see how small they are.
Oh, well, it's a falabella then. It's even smaller.
Exactly. It's very, very small. And there are many bigger dogs than that.
Mm.
Anyway, what are the advantages of a horse rather than a dog?
Well, the poo's much nicer, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's nicer.
It's cooler, you know.
It's cooler.
It's cooler, you know. You got a falabella pony, for God's sake. You got a tiny miniature pony.
Well, it looks hard.
Bragging rights.
It could carry a shopping on its back.
Yeah, shopping on its back is
carry it or pull a little trolley as well. They're quite good at hardy pulling animals.
Some people, not many, are allergic to dogs. I would say more people are allergic to horses, but probably if you're allergic to dogs, you may not be allergic to horses.
It might not go and shag the leg of every passerby.
Very helpful.
If it does, though, it'd be more of a problem.
They do have very good memories as well, horses.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. Very good memories. It's usually it's a panicky memory, connected with something that was genuinely painful or distressing for them, and they never forget it. It can be the smallest little...
So they would remember the way to the shops if they're particularly frightened by the way to the shops some time ago, and you could just go,
that would be a disadvantage.
And the horse would immediately go to the shops.
That would indeed be a disadvantage. They're flight animals rather than pack animals, and so they can spook. Another advantage, and it's a big one, is simply the relationship that you have with your animal is longer.
Because they live, what, 30 years or something?
20 or 30 years, as opposed to a dog, 8 to 12 years. So that's a very, very strong advantage. Another one is simply their stamina is greater than dogs, of course.
But can you house train a horse like a dog?
Oddly enough, you can. I mean, not as well as a dog, it must be said, but
accident.
Pretty well. The disadvantages in restaurants tend to have a policy of no horses, or at least don't have a positive yes to horses policy. And also the other disadvantage, if you go into a bar or somewhere where a dog is welcome, the dog can curl up and go to sleep. Or go under the table. You won't get a horse.
Getting up on a horse.
I just got to do the black now.
You go home, I'm going to stay.
That would happen, I feel. They are slightly less able to blend into the background, shall we say. How does it work when a blind person with a guide dog wants to cross the road? Does the dog say when it's clear, as it were, and make the decision to cross the road?
I hope so.
You hope so. Well, oddly enough, it doesn't. It's the blind person who makes the decision.
And the dog keeps stopping him.
The dog has the ability, it's trained what's called selective disobedience or intelligent disobedience. The dog will overrule if it must, but otherwise it's up to the master or mistress, as it were, to initiate it. And it's all done through the feeling of the harness. So when the dog gets to the other end, it puts its paws up on the curb, which alters the angle of the harness, and the blind person feels that.
Finally, what colour is the Emerald City?
I think I know a weird fact about the Wizard of Oz, which I didn't realise until recently, which is that it's an allegory for America. The farmers are the straw man, and they need a brain. And industry was the tin man, and industry doesn't have a heart. Wow. And the lion was the politicians, and that they didn't have any courage.
You're absolutely right. But it's not what we were looking for. We were looking for the colour.
Well, is the answer green, then? Oh, damn it! I knew something. I knew something.
Yes. Emerald. Yes. Yellow.
Brown.
No.
Red.
Stop naming colours.
Blue. Teal.
When she first goes to the City of Oz, she is told she must don a pair of protective glasses in order to avoid being blinded by the brightness.
Silver.
I have that when I have laser on my Jack and Danny. They make you wear glasses.
On your what?
On your what?
Jack and Danny.
Jack and Danny?
Jack and Danny, Fanny.
Sorry, it's called a Jack... What is...
A Jack and Danny.
They make you put the glasses on.
No, wait.
Also,
Jack and Danny.
My mum doesn't like me doing rude stuff, and she's really pleased I was going to be on QI. Right. And now she's not going to be pleased anymore. She's going to be very embarrassed in front of the gardening club, of course, again.
Speaking of the gardening club, you had all downstairs.
I did not know. It's rhyming slang, is it, Jack and Danny? Who knew?
For Fanny, yeah.
My favourite when I was growing up was always called a fine china.
Oh.
Oh, is that your...
Because you get it out for special occasions.
Exactly right,
Back to the Wizard of Oz. What we learn from the wizard at the end is that he makes everybody wear green spectacles so that things appear green. And when she asks if that means everything isn't really green, he replies, "No more so than any other city, but my people have worn green glasses on their eyes so long that most of them think it really is an emerald city."
The ancient Greeks used it for earache. Columbus took 80 tons of it to America, and Henry VIII made it compulsory. What am I talking about?
Oh, hang on a second. What's the theme of the show? It's joints?
Yes.
I'm going to guess marijuana.
Ooh, marijuana is the right answer. Cannabis, yes.
So he took 80 tons to America?
Yes.
You're saying that he's
Columbus
a trafficker? Saying Columbus is a drug trafficker?
He must have had a very big sphincter.
It was pretty enormous.
Pretty nervous when you got a customs, I would imagine.
Well, as you probably know, cannabis plant is also used for the creation of hemp and ropes. He had tons of it just on his ship alone, of rope made from hemp. And also it was made under King James, it was made compulsory for the colonials to grow it and to use it. They mostly wore hemp clothing. And hemp was used as an oil, as a lubricant, and all kinds of things, as you can buy hemp oil now. But by the middle of the 19th century, cannabis was recommended by the US Pharmacopoeia for the following disorders: neuralgia, tetanus, typhus, cholera, rabies, dysentery, alcoholism, anthrax, leprosy, incontinence, snakebite, gout, tonsillitis, and insanity.
So that seemed to be a list of pretty much everything, though. I would imagine if you went into the chemist, it sounds like they only had one thing. What have you got? Well, I'll have a think.
Well, there's a Greek word for that, panacea, a cure-all, literally. And so they did more or less think it was a panacea, as they did so many drugs, as they did heroin when that came out, and cocaine.
Well, in defence of both of those, it will take the edge off.
But there are still people who believe it. People are very keen for the legalisation of medicinal marijuana.
It seems weird that we haven't got medicinal marijuana, but we've got medicinal heroin.
Yes, isn't
That's
it?
kind of an odd quirk, isn't it?
I suppose so, except that, of course, there is no real painkiller available except the one that we get from the poppy, which includes morphine and heroin. We just can't make a drug that does the same thing.
Mummy's hugs.
Mummy's hugs and kisses. Sweetheart.
Mummy's hugs.
That's so
and
lovely.
Then if they don't work, heroin.
Yeah. I think you've got it spot on the money, Jack. Absolutely. One thing Edison did invent, for 100% genuine Edison invention, that we use every day, probably, most of us.
Is it nasal hair clippers?
No, it's not even an object.
It's not an object.
No.
So it's a way of being. Sarcasm.
Yeah, he invented sarcasm.
Oh, right, yeah. Right.
Sure. Oh, yeah. It's actually a word. A word, yeah.
Is it Zugsfang?
No. The Germans have that, but very good.
I don't know if I use that every day.
You wouldn't use zigzag every day unless you were a chess
I've
player.
used it 4 times today.
Yeah.
Well, you're fine till Thursday, then, aren't you?
Crikey. Crikey?
No, not crikey. No, it's
Flocky knocky nihilipilification.
He didn't invent that word, but well done for knowing it. Which means?
The act of assessing something as worthless.
Very correct, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. The word is it's a simple word of greeting.
Hello.
That's the word.
He invented hello.
I
He
heard a
invented
different
hello.
story about that.
H-E-L-L-O. The word that existed before is hello, H-U-L-L-O, which never meant a greeting. It just meant an expression of surprise. Hello, what have we got here? Hello, what's this? We still use it.
Do
in
we?
that sense. Hello, what's that?
Don't we, Bill? Yes, when we live our life like 1950s detective film. I often go to my fridge and I'm, hello, without a milk. I say, Mother, where's the milk?
You beast, you utter beast.
When they went round Jeffrey Dahmer's house, they found a human head in the fridge. They went, hello.
It's free. Maybe just a little camp, I think.
Oh, is it camp?
Oh, hello.
Hello.
I said there was a greeting. I said, people, hello, dear, hello, sailor.
Well, no, I think it's a bit of surprise as well.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, there's more surprise.
It's been
than greeting.
appropriated by the gays. It's one of those.
Anyway.
Oh, hello.
But originally,
hello.
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 Originally. All right. Very
There
good.
was a story about hello, though. There was a story that there was a competition in the Evening Standard, and they said, well, you know, we want to find out what's the thing that you're going to say when you answer the phone. And they had a competition, people voted on it, and hello came out number 1. And what came second was ahoy hoy. Which, if you watch The Simpsons, is how Mr. Burns answers the phone.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, what it is that was Alexander Graham Bell's favoured method of answering the phone, was to go ahoy, ahoy.
Which I still use.
Do you? Good for you. Good for you. Whereas I get mocked for using hello.
Not on the phone. No, that's perfectly acceptable.
Surprise. Hello, what's going on here?
Stephen, what was the last thing that made you go, hello?
It was a genital wart.
Was it a genital? I knew it would be something to do with genitals. I knew it.
Now, hello happened to be one of Edison's favourite words. When he first recorded sound, he shouted halloo, which was actually a cry from the hunting field, a view halloo. So halloo was the first recorded word. And he reckoned, Edison, that it sounded very clear. He discovered this while testing Alexander Graham Bell's prototype. So the first written use of hello, spelt with an E, is in a letter from Edison in 1887. What do bees do better than dogs? Yes, Jimmy.
Make honey?
That's probably true, I have to say.
Probably true.
Yeah.
You're giving me probably on making honey. OK, fine, if that's the way you want to play it.
I'll give you that one. But
thank you very much. I'm currently in the lead.
Yeah.
They're better at sneaking up on you than dogs are. Like, you would never know if a bee had sniffed your crotch, would you?
Well, you might not. There'd be a buzzing noise, but oddly enough, you've used a word in there.
Is it crotch?
No.
Sniffing.
Sniffing. sniffing. We use dogs to sniff in customs and for security.
Sniffer bees.
For explosives and for drugs. And do you know what? It takes a dog about 3 months at least to be trained to be a sniffer dog. It takes a bee 10 minutes. All you have to do is put it in a box, all right, add the smell and some sugar simultaneously, do that a few times, and it will instantly associate that smell with sugar and a reward. And then next time it comes across that smell, its proboscis will come out, and if you set it all up right, it will cause an alarm.
So why aren't we in airports killing bees then?
It's beginning to happen.
Unless drug dealers had an allergy to stings, I can't see them being pinned up against the wall by a policeman. with a bee on a bit of kite, you know, like kite twine.
There's a company called Sentinel which has developed this, and it is beginning to be used by the military and by airports and by various others. You pop a bee in a little box and you train it.
That's not a little box, that's like the worst rucksack ever invented.
What if they like savoury stuff? You know, what if they just haven't got much of a sweet tooth?
The great thing about bees is they only like sugar. But I admit, there may be a rogue bee that likes meat or salami, and that would be useless.
Pasties.
Pasties, for
Then
example.
he wouldn't be able to do that as a job.
Cornish bee, yeah. You shove a few in a box, and then you waft them near the thing that you want to check. There it is.
Well, it's not a bad idea, because that was always the old joke about the best way to smuggle drugs would be, obviously, in a dog's bum. Because when the sniffer dogs come through... As soon as the dog goes, you just go, come here, you naughty little thing. Whereas with bees, how much could you get in a bee's bum? Very little.
Very little.
My dad once punched a bee.
Punched a bee?
Yeah, it sort of went for him, and it was huge, so he just punched it. So, you know, we said it was like a velvet tennis ball.
It's a rather beautiful phrase. Velvet tennis balls of the sky.
I like that he was thinking of such poetic things while he was punching a bee.
And bees are valuable, and as we know, they're in trouble. There seems to be this
That
thing
one
called-
was.
Yeah, that one. How can we tell who is whose child just by looking at their ears?
That was a beautiful weekend. Presumably, the parents of the child would be going, step away from my child, stop looking at its ears.
Well, yes, there is that.
On that day, I had to have a child's head on my body all day.
Was it exhausting?
I tell you what, I've got a cracking pair of tits.
So, the Atkins is working then?
I feel really left out.
I'm sorry.
Can I be like the dog or something?
Actually, though, David, you could also be the parent of that child. And indeed, Alan and Phil could be your parents. In terms of ears, how will we know that, though? What is it about your ears that is particular? It's very odd that all four of you, have very unusual ears, or not very unusual, but less than average.
Is it that you lobe length thing?
Yeah. It's a lobe thing. Your lobes are all attached. They don't hang.
Attach? Yeah, what, you mean they're not sort of over there somewhere?
No, they're called attached lobes. They go straight down. You don't have a little actual lobe.
You have a lobe.
Yeah.
You have a lobe, don't you?
A little flappy lobe. I can do that.
Yeah. Oh, stop it! Stop it!
It's more common to have a lobe than not to, in fact. In the audience, can you put your hands up if you've got, like me, a little flappy lobe?
Freaks!
And could you put your hands up if you haven't, if you like those? Yes, you see? It's a bit like eye colour. It's a dominant and recessive gene thing, so that if you both have attached lobes as a mother and father, then your child must have attached lobes too.
So if a family are watching this and they think, well, hang on, ours hasn't.
Yeah. I'm afraid it's a dead giveaway. Yeah.
Well, this is turning into Kilroy. Well done.
Yeah.
Pizza pie. What's the pizza-litically correct procedure for eating a piece of pizza? What is it?
Many years ago,
Yes.
I was a friend of and knew Fanny Craddock.
Oh, dear Fanny.
The younger people won't know who she was. She was a television chef, a sort of interesting cross between Mary Berry and Jeremy Clarkson. A wonderful woman. And And she taught me and my wife how to make pizza, proper Neapolitan pizza, and she explained to us, A, that you cut it up, but then you don't use knife and fork to eat it. You have to eat it by hand.
Yes.
And you have to feed one another.
Yeah. The fact is, you can eat pizza any way you please, but there are certain thoughts and some advice about how to do it.
It's a fold, isn't it?
It's a fold.
So the grease doesn't go everywhere.
Yeah, so what you end up with is a sort of triangular package with all the toppings inside. They don't slip off.
That looks exactly like Fanny's.
Yes.
No, I think that's the perfect way to eat pizza.
It is.
Well, I don't think so. I think that's a greedy way to eat pizza. That's like bunging as much in at a time as you can. Whereas in Italy, you tend to put a finger in and just sort of bend it. So you...
We're talking about eating pizza. Pizza and then bend it, yeah?
That was your mind. That was not my mind.
Can I just say, my mother watches this.
Not for much longer.
No.
You don't fold it because then you
Where
don't
do you
get
put
the...
a finger in, though, Sally? Where do you put a finger?
Well, you... how do you do it? I'm just trying...
You can't put the finger
You kind of... You make it so it's like a bend, like a scoop thing. And so it's basically so that you can hold the end up.
So you've got to keep it up, but then pop your finger in.
If you hold the triangle flat, the end will go floppy. So do it like that.
Yeah.
Is anyone else with me? I've never really had a problem eating a bit of pizza. I tend to pick it up and bite some off.
Yes, and just get on with.
What's the toughest way, though, to become a mummy?
Well...
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Here's Jimmy.
Reverse cowgirl?
Now, they understand that. You're going to have to explain it to them. What is your reverse
I'm going to need a volunteer from the audience.
If you're having sex with me...
Yeah.
And,
Mel.
Or Mel.
Yeah.
Say you're having sex with Mel,
Yeah.
and you're lying down
Yes.
on your back,
Yeah.
and Mel is... I can't use her name in that stuff. She's
Jordan.
sitting on top of you, but looking away. Reverse cowgirl.
Oh.
I find they're much happier without looking away from me.
That, however,
Especially if they can see out the
is,
window. It's like a budgie.
She could be reading a book or watching telly. She could do what she likes.
She can see the telly or outdoors. She don't mind.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. It's catch-up time for women,
So
basically.
she's doing Sudoku or whatever?
Yes, whatever you need to do. You just...
Yes, you're thinking of making babies, aren't you? That sort of mummy, I realise now as well. Yeah. Can you turn yourself into a mummy? That's the point.
Probably.
Yeah, you could, couldn't you?
Probably wrap yourself up in...
Mummify
Well,
yourself.
haven't you got to take your liver out through your nose? That's what they used to do, isn't it? They used to take the organs out through the mouth and nose.
Well, the brain they would take out through the nose. They'd agitate it with hooks so that it turned into a liquid mush and then...
Oh!
Yeah, I know.
Worse than being buried alive?
and then after that, they would kill them.
Yeah, wow. But the Soku Shinbutsu were members of an obscure Buddhist sect who, in Japan, used to practice the rather macabre idea of self-mummification. This is what they'd do. It's quite complicated. It's really interesting. See if you could do this. For 1,000 days, right, a priest would eat nuts and seeds while taking part in vigorous physical activity so that he had no body fat. He'd then only eat bark and roots for another 1,000 days and then drink a poisonous tea made from the sap of the urushi tree that caused him to vomit and lose bodily fluids. Then he would lock himself into a tiny stone tomb with an air tube and a bell, and he'd sit in the lotus position, and every day he'd ring his bell to show that he was alive. And when the bell stopped, the tube was removed and the tomb was sealed, and then other monks in the temple waited for another 1,000 days and then opened the tomb, and if the monk had succeeded in preserving his body in his death, he would be considered to have achieved the state of a truly enlightened Buddha.
Who made up that game?
Buddhists.
You know, it's a terrible photo of him. If I was going to get all that trouble, I'd have a decent photo taken of me.
I like this because, I mean, a lot of people get away with thinking that Buddha is like the sane religion. Buddhists are normal and decent, but even Buddhism has weirdery beyond belief, really, I'm afraid. Yeah.
They don't do it like that anymore, obviously, do they?
No, it's now an illegal form of suicide.
They have a webcam now, don't they?
I think as a form of suicide, though, I think that should be promoted because, you know, if you jump off something high and land, it's all over very quickly. You've not been able to think it through. With that, you can sort of change your mind. You go, do you know what? I fancy a drink. After about 900 days, you go, oh, pizza wouldn't go amiss.
If you open it after 1,000 days and he hasn't turned into a mummy, would you say, that's it, I told you he had a Twix?
Anyway, yes, members of an obscure Buddhist sect in Japan went through an extremely rigorous process of self-mummification until the practice was stopped in the 19th century. So, what kind of glass does the Pope-mobile have in its windows?
Oh, probably the... Has he got the slidey kind so we can sell ice creams? I imagine it plays the ice cream van music. I'm not casting aspersions on the Catholic Church, but...
No, be very careful.
A stained glass.
Stained glass, that's a very good point.
It's tinted.
Tinted. Is it tinted? So, like, when they're all waving, everyone thinks that he's in there doing that, but actually he's cracking open some tin, he's like flicking the bees.
What else would you say about the glass?
Well, it's... You want us to say bulletproof, don't you? That's the thing, isn't it?
I wouldn't. Would I want you to say what?
Bulletproof.
Oh! I'm afraid we're being very technical with you. There's no such thing as bulletproof glass by any manufacturer or anybody else.
It cost me a fortune in my house.
It's called bullet-resistant glass. They don't claim it to be bulletproof. 4 inches thick will do. It's layered with sort of vinyl and things in between, and it absorbs the shock of the bullet. But there's a really clever, which is one-way bullet-resistant glass, where you shoot into it and the bullet does that, but you can shoot out from the other side and it goes straight through.
Well, if that gets fitted incorrectly,
could fire
you've got
back.
one shot. Or they could put a gun up to it.
Possible.
It's because of the way the lamination's done. I can describe to you if you wish. It works because of the order in which the layers are assembled. The shock absorber layer is on the inside with the glass on the outside. That's the reason.
That would be great if you could be shot by the Pope. That would be... How exciting would that be?
Yeah. You can shoot, he's shooting a bit, yeah, you're going to hell, I've had a word.
He'd definitely do the sideways thing, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Just a matter of interest, how many popes does the Vatican have per square kilometre?
How many popes? Like, buried or in storage?
No, actually, live, living popes.
One.
No. There's actually 2.27 recurring, because Vatican City is only 0.44 of a kilometre. So on the average would be per square kilometre.
Oh, well, I think we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The most annoying question ever asked. I think we've done it.
I understand your point of view. Describe the scandal of Mrs. Pankhurst and the rhubarb jam.
Pankhurst, she was a first, now suffragettes and jam.
We don't say suffragettes anymore, we say favours the flatter shoe.
Did she make her own jam? Pankhurst's own rhubarb jam?
Well, no, but actually in the 19th century and the early part of the 20th century, there was an enormous industry involved around making of fake jams, would you believe?
Fake jams?
Fake jam. There was a particular kind of jam that was very popular, but rather expensive for ordinary people, and so fake versions of it were produced, and it was a particular fruit jam.
Strawberry. Raspberry.
Raspberry is the answer. Raspberry was very popular, very, very popular, but rather expensive. So instead people used rhubarb was your best shot. Your worst shot was sweetened turnips. And, as Marcus said under his breath there, I caught it, yes, they did put wooden pips in, not real pips, but fake pips.
Lovely word.
In order to make it look more like... And, this is why it gets so weird, so prevalent was this habit of making false raspberry jam out of sweetened turnips and rhubarb and adding the wood bits, that there was a trade of making little wooden pips. And it was sweated labour that Mrs. Sylvia Pankhurst, one of the leading women's movement people who, fought for votes for women and rights for women and so on, that she made an enormous fuss about this and indeed opened her own jam factory during the First World War, selling real jam instead of this.
It does sound like a euphemism for something else. Yeah, she's opened her jam factory.
Exactly. You're a very disgusting young man.
I just think it sounds...
quite wrongly.
I like the idea you could have a job as a pip maker.
Yeah, I know, that's exactly what a pip maker.
5 years apprenticeship. Making pips. Start with a great big pip like that, where it's smaller and smaller.
And being very badly paid at it. Anyway,
presumably they got away with it if it lasted that long, so it must have been raspberry-ish.
I guess. It was sugary, it was sweet and it was red. What do they call jam in America?
Jello. Jam. Jello.
No, they don't. Jelly.
I want some jam.
Jelly.
Put some jam on my pancakes.
Jelly. They call it jelly.
I'm still saying jam.
Yes, you are. You're still saying jam in your way.
I think it's funny when I say jam.
They make it with, they mix it with peanut butter as well.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Got an interesting fact about peanut butter.
Tell me.
You know when they make those commercials using chimps?
Like for tea and things.
For tea and stuff. So what they do is they get a little bit of peanut butter and they put it on the top of the roof of their mouth for the monkeys, and a little bit they go, and that is also how they make Hollyoaks.
Very good. Very good indeed.
So it's done.
So, there we have it. The pips in fake raspberry jam, often made from rhubarb, with little bits of wood processed by sweatshop female labour. What makes up more than 70% of the internet?
It's my personal collection, isn't it?
Of what?
Of gentlemen's special interest literature.
I think we know what you're talking about.
Well, if you're going to be like that...
No, it's just quite surprising. They did a survey on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union, who were very annoyed about some legislation that Bush was trying to push through, which they thought somewhat prohibitive of personal liberty, and they discovered that less than 1% of the internet is pornography. Less than 1%. Of all email traffic, 85, in fact, up to 89%, is spam. It's as simple as that.
Trying to sell you Xanax and penis enlargement.
Exactly. Soft Cialis, whatever that is.
The annoying thing about those, I get loads of them, most of them from my girlfriend, but it's the ones from my mum that really hurt.
Oh. Yay! Yes, a recent study has established that the World Wide Web is less than 1% pornography, and on the other hand, 89% of all emails are spam, which is good news if you're looking for cheap pills or you want to increase your extremities. What would you do with the world's longest corkscrew?
Undo the world's most convivial bottle of wine.
Ah, exactly. Perfect.
I would make a sex toy for pigs.
Oh, that's very good. Because you know about the fact exactly that
pigs got a little corkscrew.
A little curly corkscrew of a knob.
Not just pigs as well.
Oh, is it not for taking out
Been looking for someone who goes the other way. As it were. So this is a helical structure. It's not really a corkscrew, but it's the longest that occurs in nature. And I have one. Yes, I have one. I don't have one growing about my person. I have one on my person, as it were. No, it's on my person.
I can't believe you've been so blasé about this. You've killed a unicorn.
You're a monster. Oh, J.K. Rowling gave me permission. It's not a unicorn, though some believe the unicorn myth sprang from this creature. Is it the narwhal? Narwhal! Absolutely right. And
very good.
I'm pretty sure that's made up.
Yeah.
What is a narwhal?
This guy. There it is.
What?
I know. Isn't it astonishing? The thing has been glued on by someone at the Natural History Unit in Bristol, but it is a real creature. It's a whale, and the word narwhal means dead body, nar, in Norse, because it's a rather grey, unappetizing-looking flesh. But what do you think it is? Do you think it's horn or tooth or what?
I imagine it's hair. It's always hair, isn't it?
In this case, it isn't. It is actually a tooth. It's a tooth without enamel. It is a single tooth that bursts out of it. I mean, it's phenomenal. And nobody quite knows, A, why it's corkscrewed, and what it's for. The assumption people make, because it's on the male, must be, therefore, that it's for fighting other males for the right to mate. But nobody has ever observed to... Oh, well, hang on. No, they rub them together as a sort of bonding thing, so it's not fighting. They don't.
They rub them together as a bonding sort of thing.
Yeah. They've been to private school.
You keep on telling yourself that, Steve.
It's the only way they ever get to chew.
In
they
fact,
get a grate between them.
They're very much the Ken Dodd of the
they are, aren't they? They actually eat their food by sort of hoovering it up and just inhaling it virtually. They're not krill eaters like a lot of the larger whales. But it's fascinating that a creature like that, you know, we think we cover the world with our natural history documentaries and so on, the whole channel's devoted to it, and people go out in boats and they quietly watch things, but we still just don't know what that's for. And that's, I think it's rather nice when there's a mystery about animals. Yeah. We're very grateful to Raph Valls, who lent us his snooker, Q, and...
Maybe they are just attractive to the female.
It may be
whale.
that. Yeah,
maybe
it may just be
I
that.
like your one.
Yeah. What is Gothic about the Goths? Yes.
The Goths were an ancient German tribe, I think, who wore crushed velvet and very, very thin drainpipe trousers and spat in shopping centres. And Goths have carried on that tradition to this day.
We're a rampaging army of horny-headed warriors.
Yes, and actually you should have some points because, oddly enough, people think of the Goths as German, but they were originally Scandinavian. And you look Scandinavian, well, you know, from that
Glaswegian, Scandinavian?
Norwegian Scandinavians.
They sound dangerous.
They came from Scandinavia, and they defeated the Vandals, who were a group of Germans, which is where we get our word
Hang
Vandal
around
from.
bus shelters.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think you are, oddly enough, the most Gothic of the Goths, because the point is Gothic has been used to mean all kinds of things. What kind of things can you think of that are applied to Gothic?
Cathedrals.
Cathedrals? Why are they called Gothic?
Well, is it anything that isn't classic?
Yes, it was an insult, is the point. In Renaissance Italy, they called them Gothic to mean barbarian, because they were conceived to be the people who destroyed Rome and therefore destroyed civilization. So Gothic was a huge insult. So there was Gothic architecture. What else was called Gothic? Gothic literature. That's where you start to get Gothic in terms of the macabre, isn't it?
Yes, and a sort of Byron-esque sort of anti-hero, maybe.
Yeah.
The bad monks and women who always fainted and slightly lesed it up.
Yes. And what other forms of Gothic are there? Does Carpenter Gothic mean anything to you?
Carpenter Gothic?
Carpenter
That
Gothic.
it was an interesting phase in their recording career. where cause she was quite skinny anyway and she had the mascara. It looked good.
No, Carpenter Gothic.
Was it a death-obsessed Geppetto? Oh, that's American Gothic, isn't it?
That's right. Bye.
No, I thought it was Norman Rockwell, but it isn't.
No, it's not Rockwell.
It's Grant somebody.
Grant is right. It's Grant Wood. And that is the actual building there in Eldon, Iowa.
Looks better in the painting, really, doesn't it?
Yes, a little dilapidated.
How have they got Gothic from that? What's Gothic about it?
And that pointed ecclesiastical style window is it's a Gothic arch.
It's a bit of a lame effort, isn't it? Considering the trouble we went to over here,
I know.
The Americans think they can put a window like that in and call it Gothic. Lazy Gothic.
Lazy.
Half-assed Gothic.
Couldn't be bothered to do it properly Gothic.
Just so it fits under the roof, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Wasn't the guy in that painting his dentist?
You're absolutely right. It was Grant Wood's dentist. Points for Sue Perkins. That's pretty darn good. And the woman...
Is it Gail from Corrie? Pretty sure that's her.
Gail from Corrie.
Helen
Worth. Very nice woman.
She looks exactly like the character she plays.
There's an incredible similarity.
That's very good. Anyway, so there are lots of things we call Gothic. And, of course, there are the young people who go about in black eyeliner and stuff.
Well, I like the fact that it makes me think that the Goths sacked Rome only after being nagged by their mum for a fortnight.
Oh, do we have to? Rubbish.
And there are lots of words called orphaned negatives. So these are words that have the opposites, but nobody uses them. They're now obsolete. So what would be the opposite of ineffable?
Effable.
Effable, but nobody ever uses as a perfectly good word, isn't
I've
it?
heard people say that.
Effable, it's not effable?
Oh, he's got nice trousers on today. He's totally effable.
Yeah, well, funny, and thank you. I really appreciate it. They're very roomy.
No, there are lots of good ones. Incessant, so cessant. Nobody talks about cessant anymore. Well, this is the weird thing about this word, OK? What it tells you in the dictionary is that cessant hasn't been used since 1701. What happened that year? They thought, you know, I'm done with that word.
For you, what about disdain?
Oh, yes,
Because
the opposite
you're...
of being a good Dane. Yes,
Yeah.
a disdain.
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 Yeah. Innocent? Anybody?
Yesn't.
Innocent.
Innocent. So innocent, yeah, innocent was a criminal.
Innocent.
Until about the 17th century, so nocentum, Latin meaning to harm.
Is nonchalant?
So chalant.
Chalant.
Yes. I'm going to refer to you as chalant. I like that. I think that sounds rather good.
What, chalant?
Yeah, chalant and effable.
Stop it, you.
To be fair, Jimmy, I had to have it pointed out to me. Inflammable?
Oh, I hate inflammable and flammable.
Same thing.
It is exactly the same thing. It's not an orphan negative at all. In fact, the opposite of flammable is non-flammable.
Explosive.
I beg your pardon?
Just reading.
Oh, explosive. It used to be inflammable because it comes from the Latin inflammare, but they adopted flammable deliberately in the 20th century because, honestly, inflammable seemed ambiguous, so that is one of the reasons why we now say flammable and then non-flammable.
Right.
Anybody know what a contronym is?
Oh, so it's like got synonym?
Yeah.
Antonym.
Antonyms, yes. So it's a word that is also its own opposite. So screen, which means to show, like screen a film, and screen also means to hide. Another example, bound, so fastened to the spot and also heading somewhere.
Oh, that's good.
They're good, aren't they? Consonants. So you like this? Fast, so moving quickly, and stuck and unable to move. It's the.
And also, I always thought with fast food, the fast is not to eat, and then also to eat loads really cheaply.
Yeah, there you go.
I think we may need marijuana for this.
Yeah.
It seems to me like this should be a conversation that happens at like, yeah, man, fast.
Yeah.
But no, man, fast food.
I love that your impression of someone on drugs means you've never taken them.
Antigrams. Anybody know what an antigram is?
It is the opposite of a gram.
So these are words where if you do an anagram, the anagram itself has the opposite meaning to the original word. So
Impossible.
Yeah, dormitories, tidier rooms is one. There's one. Customers, I like this one. The anagram is store scum.
Oh, there's a few people out there working retail.
Here's another one, an antigram. A volunteer fireman. I never run to a flame. And 45 is an anagram of over 50. It's just a woman lying, basically.
What's the least imaginative present that you could think of?
Yes, well, it's got to be the gift voucher, hasn't it?
Yes.
The gift vouchers, I mean, it's heroically bad. It's walking into a shop and going, yeah, I've got some money here. Could I exchange this for... This works everywhere. Could it just work in this one shop? Or could it just be for a limited time period with some terms and conditions, but worth the same amount? Could I make this universally acceptable thing useless?
Well, without wishing to insult your country, it is the #1 present that women want in America is a gift card. Are you ashamed of your people?
I'm humiliated for Americans every week.
So who invented the gift card? Because it is a terrible idea. If you try and sell it to someone as an idea going, well, look, take the money...
It clearly isn't clever. It's $30 billion a year in America. $30 billion industry.
And how much of that is actually spent? Because I've got some Woolies vouchers at home.
I'll tell you. In America, only 75%. About a quarter is never redeemed because the recipient forgets or the time period elapses before they get to the shop to redeem it.
Period. You know, like money doesn't have.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. I know. It's astonishing.
I've got one at home. I can't find it.
Oh, that's annoying.
It's for a day driving around Brands Hatch or something.
Oh, well, no, that is fun.
That's really fun.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's probably expired.
I got one. It was an hour in a helicopter. That was it. Just an hour. There was no mention of a pilot or whether it would take you anywhere or whether it would even go off the ground. You just sit in a helicopter.
Someone outside.
Ouch! Come on, let's go on. I never redeemed it. It was a shame.
What were the first gift certificates?
Book tokens.
Book tokens, right answer. And they were in 1932 by a man called Raymond, who was a publisher, who was rather disappointed to see one Christmas, when he saw all these presents amongst his friends and family, only 3 were books. And he realised the reason was that people were not confident about giving books because they couldn't be sure that the recipient would like that book. So he thought, why not just give them something that is good for any book they like, which is what a gift book token is. So there we are, that's that.
How long before a silence becomes awkward? OK, it's about now, I think. I think it's about now. So,
That could have been the whole...
It was horrible, wasn't it?
I think it's really awkward when you can hear your own stomach gurgle, especially if it's a gig.
Yeah.
That's always a sign, oh, this isn't going my way.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
I think comedy is quite a lot like sex, that if they haven't made a noise for a while, change what you're doing.
You could say that about parenting as well, actually.
Yeah. Oh. 2011, the University of Groningen, which is in Netherlands, discovered that a pause in conversation becomes awkward after 4 seconds.
Oh.
And after that, people start to feel anxious, they feel rejected.
I don't know, I read a really interesting thing by... it's an American research company called the Love Lab. And they basically looked at thousands and thousands of couples over the years, and they came up with a theory on call response. If you're sort of having a silence with someone, with your partner, you're looking at the paper and you go, oh, and they don't go, what? Then it takes like 7 good things to make up for that one bad thing, because people feel so rejected by that.
It's exactly that. It's about feeling rejected, because the reason that we like good conversation is it helps us feel good about ourselves.
We get dopamine, don't we? Like teenage girls who stay on the phone for hours and hours have really, really high levels of dopamine, like they've like completed a PhD.
I always think, like, as comedians, we're like drug dealers. The drug we deal is endorphins, and you've already got them on you. We'll just help you release them.
Did the Irish mind silence, Dante?
Well, it's never happened.
No.
We have yet to meet the awkward moment. I suppose after about 4 seconds of silence in Ireland, you'd bring in a wink at least.
Yeah. Just to keep things moving along.
Or you know yourself.
Yeah. And a bit of pointing, maybe. You know?
Oh, yeah. There he is over there.
It's good, those phrases that kind of break the silence that don't really mean anything. Like, when I spend a lot of time in Ireland, and it's always fair play to you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything.
Well, it means fair play to you.
Some cultures have a different attitudes. The Japanese have a concept, something called harage, and basically it means belly talk. And the idea is that you use a prolonged silence in business negotiations. And they're content with an average silence of about 8.2 seconds, so twice as long as we are. So I think it's very much a cultural attitude to it.
Maybe that's why, especially in dating, you do feel the silence a lot, because usually the instinct is, he's awful. A couple of bottles of wine and 2 years later, there you are.
Let's fire flat.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the theory? When you look at someone, you either want to kill them or you want to...
Yeah, if you're looking someone directly in the eye, it's either kind of sexual or aggressive after about 3 seconds. It's one or the other. You can't...
Not both?
It's not neutral, Alan.
Oh. That's sexual.
Thank you for watching.